it is 8 o'clock in the morning for her. And where we are, it is 4 o'clock. And we're going to have a chat with Marilyn. So first of all, welcome, Marilyn.
Thank you so much for having me, for creating this. I'm thrilled. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, so are we. So we wanted to talk to you today about your speciality. You are a therapist, and
Yes.
You're not just a therapist. You have an extensive experience with addiction. Wrote a book about it, which is called Right Recovery for You, which I just think the title is awesome when you look at it in French, because in French it actually says right repair for you. And
I like that better. That's awesome.
Yes, I'm not sure if they can translate that, if it actually makes sense, but I just loved it when I read that. So maybe we start at the beginning, and maybe you can just say something about what is an addiction.
That's a super, super good question. Because everyone has this idea that an addiction is, it's alcohol and drugs. It's those people. Maybe gambling, maybe sex, but it's kind of these weird people over here. But what I've discovered over the course of the years, and I've been looking at this since the early 90s, is that addiction is really that place, and I'm using place, not space, where we exit ourselves, where we sort of disconnect from who we actually be out of some sense of anxiety or not knowing how to cope, or this reality is too weird and crazy for us. So we go over here, but it can be pretty much anything. It can be an addiction to being perfect, to being wrong, I was looking at this morning while I was in the shower, an addiction to pleasing your boss. Oh, well, I can't stay home and do that because David or Mary or whomever says I need to do this. Or it can be an addiction to helping others. How can you criticize me? I'm going to help this needy family. But it's really going to a place where you don't actually exist, so that you can manage your anxiety and your sense of, I don't know how to cope with this reality. I don't know how to be present. It's any place you go to not be present. So alcohol and drugs are obvious because you're really not present when you're drunk. But so many of these others, like if you know anyone who's addicted to trauma drama, oh, I can't believe it, or to problems, or to complaining. Oh my gosh, I have someone in my life who's totally addicted to complaining. Everything is wrong. It's always their fault. And you can begin to develop this sense of knowing when someone's in an addictive place by becoming aware that they're not really present. Oh, hello. Oh, I'm over. I need to do this. I'm, addicted to work. One thing you can't be addicted to is consciousness, which is pretty cool because it requires you to be present, but it's the only thing that requires us to be present. So addiction is really about going to a place where you're not present, and it becomes this default place you go to. Anytime something comes up that you have the idea that you can't handle, or you don't know what to do with it, or you feel overwhelmed or bewildered, or, well, I'll just go over here and clean the house for the 13th time. Or, be the perfect mom. I'm going to make 6 batches of cupcakes for my kids. So that's really, really, really what addiction is all about.
Wow. And there are so many things where I could just go like, guilty.
Me too.
And I'm not talking about the drugs or the alcohol. And
Yeah.
I never ever realized this is wow. Um, what I mean, I don't particularly want to call it a definition, because you would be restricting it to the things you've just mentioned.
Right.
But going the fact that you are, I would call it hiding
Yeah.
from this reality. The fact that you are
Okay, I'm going to
just,
interrupt you 1 minute,
yeah,
because it is hiding from this reality at times, but it can also be hiding from who you truly be, hiding from the energy and the greatness that you are, that you know doesn't work in this reality, and you can't quite figure out how to do it. So I think I'll just go down this rabbit hole.
absolutely, absolutely, yes. And there's another guilty, um, from my side. So I'm definitely, we have at least one person who's learning something here.
Oh, me too. I always learn when I do these things.
Oh yes, totally. So I mean, you have worked for many years as a therapist,
Yes.
and I read your book, and I saw so many things where it just blew my mind. And one of the first things that totally blew my mind was basically the first things you ask people when they come to you. Could you um, say a bit about that?
I don't even remember what I put in the book, but I can tell you what I ask people. You know, someone comes in and it's like, hi, it's basically, what's up? What are you here for? And a lot of times people will say something like, well, I have an addiction to alcohol. And then I always go with questions. Never take what they say to be true. So my first question is generally, how do you know? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, how do you know you have an addiction to alcohol? Well, I drink 2 bottles of wine a day. Okay. What else? You know, and what you want to do is you want to begin to put question into people's universe. Um, because a lot of times, so, you know, I've used this example before, but I had a woman who came in because she was drinking 2 bottles of wine a day, and everybody said she was an alcoholic. And I'm like, how do you know? And she told me that. And I'm like, well, what's right about it you're not getting? And that's another question I always ask people. And they're like, there's nothing right about it. I'm an alcoholic. It's bad, terrible. Alcohol's the devil. I can't stop. I'm like, what's right about it you're not getting? Never take their answer for an answer. Um, so I've used this with lots of people, but this particular one stands out. And she's like, well, it's the only time my family doesn't bother me. She said, I can go, they know that after dinner, I go on the patio and I have my wine and they're not allowed to interrupt me. Okay, what else? Well, it helps me because my marriage is falling apart and I don't know what to do about it. What else? It's the only thing I can receive from. What do you mean by that? You know, I'm always asking people to go a little deeper. Well, I was abused a lot as a child and I don't trust people. I trust alcohol to, I know what it is. I know it makes me feel relaxed. I don't care if I have a headache the next day. So we went on, and there were 8 different things that wine was contributing to her. And I said, with all of that in place, how could you possibly stop? What if you're not an alcoholic? What if you're not addicted to alcohol? What if you just don't have tools to manage what's going on in your relationship? What if you haven't had tools to process the abuse that that's occurred with you? So, I mean, that's the thing. We want to make the alcohol or the drugs or the gambling or the money or the whatever it is, we want to make that the problem, as if we just get rid of that, everything's going to be great. But it's not the problem. It's just a coping skill that people have used because they don't know what else to do. So that's a lot of what I ask people. I've asked, I'll give another example, because people can become addicted to things, quote, mental health issues. So I had someone come in and she said, I'm like, you know, what's up? Because I don't just deal with alcohol and drugs. I've over the years seen everything. She was like, I'm depressed. I'm like, how do you know? She said, what do you mean? How do I know? How do you know you're depressed? I'm sad. Really? You don't seem that sad. I said, well, my doctor told me I was depressed. Okay, so what's really going on? She said, well, my father died. I'm like, okay. So what'd you think of your father? He was a jerk. I'm like, so are you really depressed? Or are you actually, you're supposed to be depressed. You're supposed to have grief. She said, actually, yeah, I'm glad he's dead. I mean, which is a difficult thing to admit. You certainly can't admit that in this reality that you're glad a parent is dead. But she could admit it to me in therapy. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. So what if you could just act depressed or in grief for the people who needed to see that and just actually be true? It's so much about acknowledging what's actually going on rather than buying the label or the symptom that somebody else gives you. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely, totally. Yeah. And what you're saying with judgment, especially in the case of this lady, the people around you will expect a certain behavior. And
Yes.
I think it's probably not just her case, but many
No.
others as well, where people expect a certain behavior, and you, because you do not have any other tools, want to please them and give them the behavior
Yes.
that they are looking for, and it is not yours.
Exactly. And this happens in families all the time. They expect you to behave like a Smith or any last name, a Chang or a Gadzuko or whatever, well, we in Romania or America or Africa or, Catholic or Muslim, this is how we behave and this is what we believe and you must fit into this box. And that's one of the things that actually fuels addiction, is the idea that you should fit into what the family or the culture or the society or the religion says you should be. And that's a lot about cutting off who you are. No, I'm a radical violinist or something, or I'm gay, or I'm an atheist, but there's so much pressure to be this thing that the family, the culture, the religion has decided you need to be. And there's no space for being you. And really, that recovery is really about coming out of the box of what everybody else has decided you should be and actually judges you terribly if you're not. Coming out of that, using tools to actually empower yourself to be who you really be. And it's just, when I see people begin to make those steps, and it takes an enormous amount of courage, because mostly we either be what they want us to be, or we go into resistance and reaction. You want me to be good? I'm going to be bad. You want me to believe? I'm going to be an agnostic. And doing that is really the same coin, just a different side. So it's not about going into resistance and reaction. It's not about going into fight. I always tell people it's like take a step to the left. And all I mean by that is discover a different reality where you don't have to align and agree with these people and you don't have to resist and react. Like, oh, I'm going to choose this. This works for me. Oh, maybe it doesn't anymore. Okay, I'll choose this. But I get that it takes an enormous amount of courage to do that, particularly when there's a lot of pressure on. So,
can I ask a question? Or
please.
something? Because I've known you for several years, Marilyn.
Yes.
And if I recall correctly, you had your own addictions, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I so can remember at a 7 days, I remember sitting next to you, very close to you, and you were drinking wine again, or you were drinking, a glass of wine. And I don't know if it was the first try or it was very recently that you tried alcohol again. And in my universe, what I've seen with people was that when you've once been an alcoholic in this world, you're always sick. You can never, ever choose that again. Mm-hmm. And what I saw with you, there was nothing left of that past in you. Oh. And I was like, and I love the Access Consciousness tool, but I was like, wow, this is a huge step in that this is a possibility if we want to go there, to not have an addiction that is laying like subtle there and waiting for you to choose wrong and fall into the misery again. Could you talk a little bit about that? For me, it was like, wow, it's so beautiful to see and experience with you, because what I saw was like, this is magic for me. This is what I think a lot of people would like to have as a possibility, but nobody's ever showing them that that's possible.
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, because that's a big thing. There's so many myths and lies about what addiction is and isn't. And some of them are just based on what people call experience. I mean, you take someone with no tools who's an alcoholic, who hasn't had a drink in 2 years, and you offer them wine and have no tools, and they'll go back to, quote, being an alcoholic. Yeah. So people are like, see, that's what happens.
Yeah.
But for me, and I didn't drink for 15, 16 years because I was labeled as an alcoholic. I had all of the symptoms, the blackouts, the drinking to excess, the inability to stop. I had it all, dancing on the tables, throwing up, you name it, I did it. And then I got to Access Consciousness, and I was a therapist, and I started using the tools, the Access tools, things like being the question rather than the answer, not coming to conclusion, always asking questions. What's right about this I'm not getting? Heavy and light. Who does this belong to? All of these kinds of things. I started using them with my clients. And if you're interested, there's a ton of free tools if you go to accessconsciousness.com. Anyway, I started using them with my therapy clients, and they were getting better faster. And I went to Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, and I'm like, this is really interesting, because I didn't go into Access to change my therapy, but it's like, what's going on? And I said, could we use this with addiction? And he's like, sure. And that's how Right Recovery came about. And what I discovered over the course of a few years, and I still didn't drink for 2 or 3 years. I can't remember exactly because my sense of time is like,
I know.
But what I discovered was, as I used the tools, all the things that they said about being an alcoholic or drug addict, about addiction, like you can never have another drink, or once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, or, your brain changes and all of this. Well, I used bars and the body processes, and who does this belong to, and what do I know to be true, and all these different things. And then one day I was in visiting. Now, I now live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but I was visiting because that's my favorite place, one of my favorite places on earth. And I went in for lunch, and I'm very used to it now. At this point, I could ask my body and talk to my body. So I said, so body, what do you want to drink with lunch? And usually it was coffee or something like San Pellegrino. Those are my two main choices. I'm not a Coke or juice person. And my body was like, I want a glass of wine. I'm like, wait a minute, seriously? I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay. So I checked again. My body's like, yeah, I want a glass of wine. So I ordered a glass of wine, and I drank it, and I was pleasant. And I left, and I called Gary immediately, and I said, I just had a glass of wine. He said, how was it? I said, it was fine. It was pleasant. He said, did you want more? And I'm like, no, that was just what my body wanted. And then I can't tell you, but actually my whole body relaxed. One of the things that created for me was a sense of what was true for me, and not buying. Anytime we're buying what somebody tells us, whether it's traditional treatment programs or a doctor or a priest or a mother or a teacher, anytime we buy it without going, is that actually true for me? We start damaging ourselves. We start cutting off our awareness. cutting off what we know to be true for us. Having said that, there are people, and now, yeah, I can have a glass of wine. I was out to dinner last night with a friend and we split a bottle of wine, over a course. It was very nice. But what I do want to say in terms of alcohol is that there are people who actually have an allergy to alcohol.
Mm.
It's not as many as traditional 12-step would have you believe, but there are people. So you don't drink alcohol. There are people who have an allergy to peanuts. They don't have to call themselves a peanutaholic and go to meetings and go to treatment for their peanut allergy. They just don't eat peanuts, or they don't get on airplanes where there might be peanuts. So that's true. If you have an allergy to that, to gluten, whatever, you take care of yourself and your body, but it doesn't mean you have a disease. And I think that's another one of the myths. I say, if alcoholism and drug addiction weren't classified as diseases in the DSM-5, I can't remember. I haven't been using the diagnostic manual for many, many years. But anyway, if it weren't classified as a
Dropped off. She might have dropped off in her sound at the moment. Oops. She is in Costa Rica, so this can happen.
Totally. I think we completely lost her for now.
Yeah, she will try to get on again, and it can be bumpy in Costa Rica, and she can come on directly again, and it can happen that we have a little delay.
Let's see. Do we have any questions in the chat?
We have a question on. Oh, wait. Siri interrupted. So Helene was asking a question about how to stop the fight with yourself. So we can ask her that in a second.
There's another one too. How about not being owned by the drama someone else chooses?
Oh, that's a cool one.
And it's cool. Like, I actually have the book here. I love this book. And actually my best friend got this because he has an alcohol problem. But then he wasn't reading it. He bought it, but he never read it. And I was like, oh, let's check out, like what's in here. And it's such an amazing book. And I started, like reading this, and I was like, oh my God, I'm an addict as well.
Yeah, totally. I have exactly the same. I'm reading it on my Kindle, and I've actually got the parts where I actually made some notes on. I've got them highlighted so I could refer to it during the interview, because it is so fascinating. You read this and it's like the first things Marilyn said in the interview. There were so many things where I could say, yes, guilty as charged. Like perfectionism, like doing things, always being busy doing things for other people. Guilty as charged, for sure. And how many more people have this? And how many more people do I know in my environment who have this? And how can I be the invite for them, as well as for myself, to choose something different from that? If you once you know this, it opens your eyes, and it actually gives you the opportunity to look at something else and to see, like, okay, what else can I choose here? What could I be doing different from what I'm doing now, and see what change is that? And yeah. I'm not sure if we can get Marilyn back on. The messages I've sent her in Skype don't seem to come through. So
it can be that they have electricity fall out or something like that. It's not
Exactly.
uncommon there.
Absolutely.
What else is
Absolutely.
possible?
That's true.
Yes.
Maybe we should start an AA meetings. Like abnormal addictions, or I don't know, it could be anything.
I'm
Awesome
addicted to good
addiction.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Addiction to Wi-Fi. That's a good one.
No, addicted to great Wi-Fi, not crappy ones.
But I also really like what she said, that she, before the tools, she did not have the, well, she did not have the possibility or the tools actually to have the awareness of what was going on. So she had to, she didn't use the word fled into alcohol or drugs, but I kind of connected that word to it. So if you do have the tools, as she also said, it becomes a choice to drink, right? Like she can choose
At some point. Yeah, because also not to think that, oh, I have the tools, now I can drink. She did a lot of body work, a lot of bars, a lot of question, a lot of clearings, and also tested her way there, like, hey, is this really working? And I've seen several people in Access, and some are just like, no, their body just doesn't want it. But I love the space where there's no, you can almost energetically feel when people have an addiction that they're suppressing or trying to overcome. I have a friend that has, she's in a relationship with somebody I would call him some kind of addiction, and he has been drinking a lot. But one of the things I see, he still has the energy when he gets alcohol, that they're a little bit more. There's still not this, oh, I'm enjoying the sip of wine. It's more the amount that needs to get in. And I was like, oh, there's a different energy, subtle there, that you can see. He's not over it. He's just coping and making it work with people, or with himself, of course, as well. And there's a lot of different ways. But what if you were willing to go the whole way to be free?
That's exactly the title of this interview. What if nothing owned you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Petra is also asking, she's like, when you are addicted or have been, and you want to change that, many times you end up avoiding the thing you were addicted to. So how to stop avoiding and having it more as a choice?
Yeah.
Well, as Gary always says, just stop it.
Yeah, and also the thing is, if you, I mean, it's like with all these little games. When you're fighting something, when you're asking someone, whatever you do, don't think of a pink elephant. So what is it you're thinking of? It's the pink elephant, because you've just mentioned it. You're trying so hard not to think of it. It's this fight against it that that will keep you in. I'm not allowed. And when you're not allowed things, then they become the most tempting things in the world.
True.
And if you only make it wrong, well, you don't really have the space to look at it. So that's what I love about the tools. She asked, like, what's right about it? So no, there's nothing right. I'm an alcoholic. I'm drunk. I'm whatever. That's what she told. What would it take to have her back on?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And what would it take for more people to read the book, and not because you think you have to, because you are addicted or whatever, to get an understanding of it, to get an understanding of how these things work. I mean, one of the questions I've marked here is a question that Marilyn would ask, and it says, if you she's gonna come. There's internet again. She's seen the messages.
Woo-hoo!
We're still on. Just typing. Yes, you say. Can I phone in? Is there a phone number? I am not sure. Do we have a phone number? Does anybody know the technical side?
Not sure if it's from
Maybe
Costa
I
Rica.
do.
We'll check now.
Maybe she could be calling from Skype.
Yes, but how do we get her from Skype in here?
I can copy the invitation to you.
Is it the normal?
No.
Okay.
I'll just ask if the Zoom link doesn't work.
I think it doesn't.
Probably not. And sometimes when you click on it again, then it does.
But if you send her that, I mean, she could use the US phone as well, or the international ones. That could work, Ingrid.
Okay.
In our chat.
Yeah. I've just forwarded that.
Perfect.
So let's see if she can make it. That would be absolutely awesome. So what I was going to read here is, and I'm just gonna read it as it is in the book. If I hadn't had the alcohol or you can fill in any addiction you would like. If I hadn't had my addiction to deal with the pain of ... In this case, in the book, it's abandonment, abuse, and the sense of wrongness. What would my life have been like? And the way she describes it there is that it was actually a great help to many people to have their addiction, to keep them as sane as you could possibly be with the lives, with their environment, with the abuse they were dealing with whatever was going on for them, which is, to me, off the charts amazing. The fact that there is like a rightness in the addiction, like justification is the wrong word, but the fact that
The contribution it is.
yeah,
Is that what you're
absolutely,
looking for?
yeah, thank you. The contribution, that's just totally amazing. So
Yeah, so there's like this, I just opened the book and I was like, oh, what can I, like, what will be a contribution, speaking of, and it's like, what are you willing to choose? So here it says, like, true recovery is an ongoing process. It's an ever expanding and ever changing. And remember, you are the antidote to addiction. So the willingness to show up as you allows you to participate in a recovery that goes beyond what you may have imagined before. So here here it says, like, please choose what works for you, know what you know, and have the courage to step out and be the gift that you truly are. And I think it's cool, like I said, like with my best friend who was addicted, and I asked him also like a lot of questions, and like well, just questions, and he's like, oh my god, like everything is so easy, I'm so bored, when I don't have all my problems anymore. And it's so funny, but it's nice to have, to be able to have these kind of conversations with someone, like, what if we didn't, if there's anyone in your life that that is addicted, what if you didn't make them wrong, and you would just ask them questions and open this space of, like, to have different conversations about this, like, what gift could that be? So it's, yeah, you just gotta love the tools, right?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. So Marilyn's asking for the meeting ID. So
it was in the list, huh? The webinar ID, no?
Yes, the webinar ID, exactly. Well, is it the webinar ID or that's what's the same webinar ID, exactly.
Yeah, it's always in the Zoom link as well. All the numbers are the same.
Right, yeah. The spaces were different, so that's why I was not sure. So Let's see. Let's see. We're already addicted to Marilyn.
Where's the antidote?
Marilyn has that.
Marilyn has the antidote. Yes.
She's keeping it from us. Getting withdrawal. Oh, Marilyn, I have to talk to you.
We all.
I'll call in on the 7th. Marilyn, what did you do with us? No, I don't talk to Garen Dane. Marilyn.
Yeah, well, it's still it's 6 minutes past. Was it's 9:30? No, 8:36 there. So they're not starting yet.
No.
Gary's probably still with the horses. Can horses be an addiction?
Hey. Everything I think can be an addiction if you choose it.
Yeah, exactly. If you use it as a way to not be present, then for sure, yeah.
It's not easy to keep on not being present with horses, but it can happen, and it's not recommended.
Oh, won't it kick you off?
It's easier for horses to react. I get so surprised when people say, my horse reacted so much to me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm sure it's the horse problem.
Yes, she's coming in. I see her.
Awesome.
There we have it.
Well, I'll just have to do my phone. That's the best I can do.
We acknowledged that we were addicted to you, Marilyn. So we were really happy that you kept the withdrawal not too long.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. I've had internet here. I don't know what happened. It's Costa Rica.
It's okay. It's Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So where were we?
Where were we? Well, we've been reading from the book a bit, and
should we take the questions?
Exactly.
Yes.
We spoke about the questions. So, listen, you read out one of the questions.
Absolutely. I can start. Here is, it jumped. Wait a second. We have more people writing now. Hubba hubba. Sorry. I have a very limited chat for me there.
Oh, I have it here. So the first, one
you.
of the questions is how to stop the fight with yourself.
How do you stop the fight with yourself?
Yes.
Is that the question?
That's the question.
Well, it sounds crazy, but I would say just stop. I mean,
we said that.
When I fight with myself, I just go, stop it, Marilyn. What else? Oh, okay. So here's the question. What else could I choose in this moment? Or if I weren't fighting with myself, this is a good one too, because I use this question with all kinds of things. If I weren't fighting with myself, if I weren't reaching for a drink, if I weren't trying to make myself or someone else wrong, what would I be aware of? See, fighting is just a diversion from what's actually going on. So if you can ask yourself, what else could I be aware of? Or what would I be aware of if I weren't fighting with myself? Or what else could I choose in this moment? Those are really, really helpful questions, because what happens, I mean, it sounds crazy, but fighting becomes what's familiar and comfortable. So that becomes a form of leaving yourself an addiction. Because the thing is, when you're present, it's often not that comfortable, and I totally get that. So you think, I've got to stop this, but actually we cut off our awareness of that's what's actually comfortable for us at the time. So that's what I would say.
Wow. Yeah, fighting is just a diversion of what's going on. I actually wrote that down because I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. Fighting with anyone is a diversion and doesn't really accomplish anything.
It's such a valid question, and everyone can answer it for themselves.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm happy to take other questions, or
Yes, we have some.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Petra was asking, when you are addicted or have been, and you want to change that, many times you end up avoiding the thing you were addicted to. So how to stop avoiding and having it more as a choice?
Well, the first thing is, it's not necessarily bad or wrong to avoid the thing for a while, because what you're doing is you're resetting yourself. So suppose you're addicted to pleasing people. What you want to do always is to begin to create new habits. So you might want to just avoid pleasing people for quite a while. And in the meantime, go, okay, so what else can I do with my time? Well, actually, I forgot. I used to love cycling, or I used to love writing, or I used to love dancing. Well, what if I joined a dance troupe? What if I started writing again? What if I started treating myself to massages? It's helpful often to put something else in place when you're stopping doing something. And that's one of the things. I mean, I know I seem to be talking totally against like 12-step and all of that, and I'm really not, because at times, and I've sent people there for the first 6 months or whatever, and until people get a sense of a new possibility, it can be very helpful to have something else to do. Okay, every time I feel like drinking, I go to an AA meeting. You don't necessarily have to buy everything they say, but just having something else to do, something else in place, while you start creating a life that doesn't include your addictive behavior, that particular addictive behavior, that can be extremely helpful. And actually, sometimes I tell people, particularly if people are doing drugs, because one, drugs are illegal and you can get yourself into a big mess. Two, you don't know what you're getting with drugs. You really don't. So I'll tell people, hey, change your addictions. Become addicted to running or something, but get out of drugs. Replace it for a while, and then you'll see that you can have a life without that particularly addictive behavior. So yeah, avoid it for a while, and then when you have other things in place, when you start to have a better sense of you, because one of the things that addiction always does is it takes you out of a sense of who you actually are. You basically vacate yourself. So you want to begin to develop the sense of who you are and what you like and what's, I do enjoy going out with my friends surfing or whatever it is, partying or just having a quiet afternoon with a book. I'd forgotten how pleasant that was. Or hiking or making jewelry or looking fabulous, there's nothing wrong with that. So start doing the things that help you find out more who you are. And then you'll find when you do revisit whatever that addictive behavior was or is, it won't have a pull on you. It'll just be, oh, that. Or if you find that it does have a pull, go, wait a minute, how much am I just going back to habit? And what else could I choose right now? And what am I aware of when this pull is going on? So anyway, that's what I would say to that.
Awesome.
That is it's so clarifying. It is, and it is so, how shall I say, it's so soothing to hear, because it's for a change. It's not all this, oh, you're bad, you're wrong, you're weak. No. That it is so okay. So what else can you choose? What else could you be? And and resetting yourself and finding different habits. Wow. Those, I
Yeah.
mean,
And if I could say something, it's please be kind to yourself. You're not wrong. In fact, that's one of the major addictions, is the wrongness of self and the judgment and wrongness of self. And coming out of that is huge. What if I weren't judging myself as wrong? What would I be aware of? Gosh, I didn't know how to cope as a kid. I was always made wrong, and I kept trying to be right, and it never worked. And so now I'm doing whatever I'm doing, but you were never wrong to begin with. That's just other people's judgments. And that's the thing, is to really get a sense of what would it be like to be kind to me, to be an allowance of me, to know that I was doing the best I could do. I just didn't know what else to do. Nobody gave me any tools. And we require that. We require someone to give us tools. Sometimes if we're lucky enough, and it doesn't happen very often, that you grow up in a family where people are actually kind, you develop these tools naturally and you don't have a need to escape. But if you were one of the godzillion people who didn't grow up with that, and I'm not talking about being beaten or sexually abused, I'm just talking about coming from a family where they expected you to not, there was never a sense of who are you? They expected you to not be you, but to toe the line and to get into the box. And if you were being different, you were criticized for it. That's enough to drive people into searching for some way to escape themselves and the pain of being, quote, unacceptable. So yeah, a lot of this is about just learning to be kind to yourself. And that's something that most of us don't even know how to do. So
Can you say more about it? Where you would start with, if you're so not used to it and it's so helpful?
Well, so one place you can start, because here's the funny thing. Most of us who don't know how to be kind to ourselves know how to be kind to other people. So consider some of the times when you knew you were doing something kind for someone else, helping them out in some way, encouraging for them to go get a massage or to not judge themselves or any of those things. Say, well, if I were turning the tables on myself, what would that be like? If I know how to be kind to Mary or Joe or my children or whatever, what is that? What is the energy of that? And what if I use that energy with myself? And it may be uncomfortable in the beginning. Oh, I shouldn't do that. I've got to keep myself in line by being mean and judging myself and straight, boom, boom, boom. Nope. Let's take that energy that I have, that I know how to be kind to my dog or my cat or the garden or whatever, and let's turn that energy on ourselves and just be with it for a while. Just be with it. And oh gosh, what if you had your body relax your shoulders? And it's different for different people. Sometimes people can go to meditation to relax. Sometimes taking a walk in nature. And I really, really, really encourage people to go out in nature, to connect with an animal, and that can just be connecting with an animal. I just got 2 cats, and I'm just young. They're juveniles. They're not quite kittens. But anyway, I'm just so aware of their presence of not judging and how happy they are on simple things. And we're together, and they're like, yeah, let's play, You can sometimes teach yourself, remind yourself by being with an animal or going out in nature and seeing how non-judgmental it is. Nature's never mean to itself. Animals aren't mean to themselves. So we can learn from them. We can learn from how we treat others too. So that's what I would say on that one. And be prepared to be a little uncomfortable initially.
That was clear. Thank you.
You are welcome.
So do we have any other questions?
I just wanted to.
Big silence.
Did I fry everybody?
I think
Wow.
you did, but I think Lisa had the question somewhere, but I couldn't find that question.
I'm
You
trying
mentioned
to find
before.
it. I think I can find it. On the computer. It wouldn't let me.
No.
Yes, I have one here from a Monique. How about not being owned by the drama someone else chooses?
Okay, that's a great question, because other people try to suck you into their drama, and and it seems real because it's so, I don't know, it's so like this. It's like you come across a big pile of garbage and it's like, oh, that's real. But here's the thing: come across a big pile of garbage, which is what drama is. You don't go, oh my gosh, a big pile of garbage. I need to be really with that garbage and see how garbagey it is and how stinky it is and how much it derails me from my life. You go, ooh, big pile of garbage. I think I'll go around it. You know, I think I'll do something different. So, excuse me. If someone, and usually it's a family member, can be a spouse, can be a mom, dad, sister, brother, they go into all their drama. If you can really go to, first of all, is this actually real? Are they just doing their addictive behavior and making it up? And if you can begin to ask questions like that and get some perspective on it, oh, you know, they do this all the time. This is just their addiction. You know, on my website, I have a PDF that's called 10 Tips of Dealing with an Addict. And it's designed more for, like, if you have a raging alcoholic as your child or in your family, what to do, you know. But I think that might be helpful, because it's really about is realizing you didn't create it, you can't fix it, you can't solve it. All you can do is derail your life by becoming involved in it. So it's, and in the beginning, you may just need to find an excuse. I'm so sorry, Mom, I can't talk right now. You know, call me later. Or just getting away from the person or away from the drama to get a little bit of perspective. But remember, it's their drama. It's not yours. It's their pile of poo. It's not yours. And you don't, okay, here's a big one. You don't owe that person anything. Let me say that again. You don't owe that person anything. You don't owe it to them to be involved in their drama. You don't owe it to them to participate. I don't care who they are. You can say, gee, I'm sorry you're having such a hard time. I hope you figure it out. Most people are really intent on not giving up their drama. But if you say that and you be that often enough, gee, I'm really sorry that, you know, look, Johnny did this again. Okay, so I have a neighbor, an ex-neighbor, but I stay in touch with her. She's basically a good person, but she's addicted to drama. She's addicted to this guy who treats her badly. She's like, oh, you know, I still miss John. I don't even answer. I don't even respond. It's like, gee, I hope you're getting over your cold. I don't give it any energy, and that's part of it too. You can actually take your energy out of someone's universe. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but you know that energy of I'm so involved with them. Just pull it back, take your energy out of their universe and watch them as if they were a bug or something. You know, Tasmanian devil having a problem. But it's not you. Turn them into a cartoon character, shrink them down and put them in a corner. But whatever it is, acknowledge that this is their stuff. It's their creation. It's not mine. I don't owe them anything, and I don't need to participate in it. How about that?
Yeah, wow. And especially the bit where you say you do not owe them anything.
Oh, you don't owe them anything. You certainly don't owe them participation in their drama.
No.
As much as they would like you to think you do, you don't. And as much as they say things like, if you were a friend, you'd support me. I am supporting you by saying that what you're creating here is a bunch of BS. I'm not going to participate.
Yeah, totally. And what sort of judgment is it to tell someone, you're a friend of mine, you are supposed to listen to my drama, smell my poo.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's
Sorry, I don't go into the bathroom with you, and I'm not about to do that with your drama.
oh, it's wonderful. It is totally wonderful. Wow. And I think there. I mean, reading the book, I could talk to you for a week probably. Just calling up things from the book and getting you to talk about that. Um, maybe we should ask you, do you have any right recovery for you classes coming up maybe in Europe area?
Well, actually, that's interesting because I'm about to plan some. I just got back from an amazing tour of New Zealand, and I'm looking at Europe and Mexico. So if there's anyone who would like to host, we can create something. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's get something on the books. I'm very excited. I really am. I took a little hiatus. My mom was, that's a long story, and I haven't been doing that much, but now it's all revving up again, and I'm thrilled. And so, yeah, so text me, email me. Let's see what we can get going, because I would love to do that.
Well, I think we will warmly welcome you to our country, and I think I speak for all of us. I think you've got 6 people totally ready to get this started, Marilyn.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. I'm excited. I'm really excited. Yeah, let's do it. And maybe before we'll get something on the books, and before that we can maybe do another Facebook Live.
Yay, might not be from from Costa Rica.
No, not from Costa Rica. I mean, I knew the internet was shaky here, but it seemed to be the time when we could get together. So
it worked out quite well, actually.
Yeah.
So thank you for the
and anyway,
Thank you very
and
much.
thank you all.
So
okay, well, I better get on. I haven't had my breakfast yet, so
Enjoy.
So enjoy, and thank you all so much. Thank you for being on. Thank you for your questions. It was really lots of fun, and I'm always happy to talk about this stuff.
yes,
Thank
you, Marilyn. Enjoy your breakfast,
Okay.
and
I will.
we will talk to you soon.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much. All righty.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And thanks everyone for watching.